welcome. Welcome, everybody. It is my pleasure to welcome all of you today on behalf of the International Space University and also the University of South Australia, UniSA. Today is the last day of our program. The program started about 5 weeks, but actually 6 weeks ago, if we take into account the onboarding part. And today is the last day. And on the last day, it's the day for all of the participants to really show the work that they've been working on, to present it to the judges, and then after that to proceed with the closing ceremony. Before we get to the participant to show off their work, I would like to welcome all of the guests, all of the participants today. I know it's a very great emotional day for you because today is your last day as a class and you made a lot of friends. And so for the guests, we would like to also, many of the judges that go into judge the work today, we have, would like to thank all of the guests, Kerry, Dorothy, Yang, Mike Simpson, who's with us, Michael Davids, John Alabar, Leo Bao, and we are expected to join by Walter Peters, Chloe Audas, and Mia Fleverbar, and Scott Reader, as well as Mauricio Nati. So I want to thank all of them for taking the time not only to review all of the work that were delivered and that going to be discussed today, but also to come here today to be the judges. So thank you very much. Also, I would like to thank all of the sponsors of the program because without the sponsorship, it's very difficult to really get to have this program. And so for the sponsor, the ATF Press and the 9 to 10 Plus Foundations, especially to the 9 to 10 Plus Foundation, because they are the sponsor of this team project that you're going to see today. And also the Sir Worth and Kate Smith Funds. We have the Andy Thomas Foundations, the European Space Agencies, the Government of South Australia, the Italian Space Agencies, and also the Australian Department of Defense, the Boeing Defense Australia, and the Defense Science and Technology Group, SciTech Australia, and also Shaw Group. So thank you very much for sponsoring and continuing to support ISU as an institution. I would like also to thank the chairs. We have 4 chairs that Francois from Canes. We have Francois from Canes there, and also we have Rodrigo from the IST, from the Institute of Superior Technique in Portugal. And also we have Jack Arnaud, who's also from Canes. And also the TAs, the Sheriff, Schwab, and also Ashita for really shepherding the entire team there. From the class itself, I definitely need to also thank Owens and Frankie for their leadership in taking on that major endeavor and then to lead the team, to lead them to the day today. So a job well done, and I know all of the team really appreciate it. So on their behalf also, I will say thank you to you. And so to introduce, let me say to the folks who are also on the YouTube listening a little bit about the group itself, the class. The class is made up, the SHSSP22 is made up of about 34 participants. They come from 11 countries. Gender balance, we're about 58% female and 42% male. Their educational background spans the entire spectrum of ISU interdisciplinary visions. They come from space applications, business and management, policy and laws, physical science, life science, information technology, humanities, and engineering. And also they hold degrees they have master degrees, bachelor degrees, and PhD. So that's the makeup of the class today that's going to be talking to you and defending their work. So the charge that we give the group was to use artificial intelligence and machine learning to develop space mission strategy. And the test case was to optimize a lunar or output locations. The team was to explore how to find the best locations for a lunar human outpost using state-of-the-art computer tools, artificial intelligence, and machine learning to create a human outpost on the moon. They were also to look at all of to take into account all of the different disciplines. The questions, the main issue they had to address was, can AI help scientists and engineers determine the best place on the moon to create a sustainable outpost? And what data set should be used? And look at the ethics aspect of using machine learning and artificial intelligence in terms of the decision-making process to make sure that it's inclusive and taking out all of the, well, subject to taking out a lot of the biases in the decision-making process. So with that in mind, the judge, if they're going to present their work, it's a video that's going to be played. And then also after that, we'll come back for the judge to have a Q&A. Before we start the video, I know that Pascal, the president of the university, is online also. I don't know, Pascal, if you want to say a couple of words to our guests and the class very quickly.
Yes, thank you very much. I'm very happy to be part of that and look that you have done a really great topic, worked on a really great topic, and I'm very happy to join this project and listen to you and your results.
Thank you, Pascal. With that, if we can go and play the video for the judges and the guests.
That's one small step for man.
We choose to go to the moon in this decade and do the other things. Not because they are easy, but because they are hard. Because that goal will serve to organize and measure the best of our energies and skills.
It is the year 2072, and advancements in technology and capability have allowed humanity to extend its reach to the stars. We have founded outposts in multiple locations. There once was a time when children would ask their parents whether the sun revolved around the Earth or if the Earth revolved around the sun. Now, however, they ask, what was it like growing up on Earth?
Today at school we were told that the first outpost outside of Earth was the moon. Why did we go to the moon?
Oh, that's a big question. There were a lot of things to consider. Perhaps we should talk to Astrotory.
Into Astrotory.
Hey Owen, I hear you have some questions for me.
Yes, why did humanity travel to the moon?
What an excellent question. To understand that, we need to know about
In 1972, the last Apollo mission left the moon, not knowing when humanity would return. Now, 50 years later, we are planning our first sustainable lunar outpost. The establishment of humanity's first off-planet outpost will be a defining moment in the history of our species. The success or failure of this enterprise will determine the future of crewed spaceflight endeavours for generations to come, and it is a crucial step towards humanity becoming a multi-planetary species.
Nobody owned the moon. When people travel to the moon, do they need to get permission?
there are a few hurdles to get past, but
Good morning, everyone. Hope you're all doing great, and welcome to Good Morning with Kesh, the best way to start your day. Today, we're going to present a segment that is quite literally out of this world. Life on the moon was once the realm of science fiction. However, a decision coming out of the United Nations today made this one step closer to reality. To discuss the decision in more detail, please welcome our two incredible guests, renowned space lawyer Elle Aldrin and Professor of Humanities Professor Armstrong. Welcome to the show, guys. It's great to meet you both. Elle, can you please explain to our viewers what this new development means for humanity?
Of course. Thank you, Kesh. The 5 treaties governing space were created during a period when very few states were traveling into outer space. So commercial use and access by non-state actors was never imagined. As space became more accessible, it was clear that space treaties were no longer fit for purpose. So space mining, for example, could be argued to be in violation of Article 2 of the Outer Space Treaty, which states that anything in space is not subject to national appropriation. Today's landmark decision coming out of the UN COPUOS addresses many of these concerns and more.
That really does sound like a huge landmark. Professor Armstrong, from a humanities perspective, are you happy with today's outcome?
I certainly am, Kesh, and I think we should all be proud of this moment. The first lunar outpost will be part of humanity's shared heritage, our first continuing human presence on another celestial body. The UN's new normative framework looks to involve all nations and cultures in this process, which is a huge step in the right direction. But even more than this, the UN has recognized that the use of technologies in getting us to the moon, such as AI and ML, must reflect Earth's diversity of cultures and must be part of that heritage too. It's an incredible moment for humanity, Kesh, and to think that all of these suggestions came from a group of participants of the International Space University's Southern Hemisphere Space Studies program is truly incredible.
It really is. Elle, in your opinion, what was the biggest accomplishment?
Great question, Kesh. I have to say the biggest accomplishment coming out of today is the strengthening of the framework governing AI and ML use in space in terms of ensuring accountability and establishing a systems review regime to ensure that all of AI and ML capabilities utilized in space can be effectively controlled and used in a manner consistent with international law. So that's really important. It's great not only for AI and ML use in space, but also informing regulation here on Earth and the normative framework governing autonomous weapons.
Wow, that's really cool. Professor Armstrong, I'd like to ask, what have been the ethical considerations of this framework?
Yeah, well, I'm glad you asked, Kesh. We know that space activity doesn't come without its fair share of ethical debate, but the UN has expanded on the notion of non-appropriation by looking to imbue celestial bodies and their landscapes with a cultural heritage, protecting the moon from things like contamination, overcrowding, and mining.
Well, doesn't that sound enlightening? I can't wait to see what happens next. Elle, Professor Armstrong, it was a pleasure to have you two join us today. Thank you very much for coming.
Thank you.
Thank you.
How did they know it was safe?
Well, we thought a lot about safety.
If we want to develop a sustainable lunar outpost, then we're going to need to consider the risks. Now, we have 5 major hazards: radiation, isolation and confinement, distance from Earth, gravity, and hostile environments. Of these 5 hazards, we have identified that the biggest threat to the long-term habitability of the moon would be radiation. Now, in the past, studies have focused on the use of personal protective equipment in order to minimize the effects of radiation. However, if we want to create a sustainable outpost, we're going to need to take a different approach. If we examine the hierarchy of hazardous controls, we'll see that personal protective equipment is actually the least effective method of reducing a hazard. And hence, we're going to need to focus on a much more effective method: elimination. In our case, minimization. Now, by mapping areas that can deflect radiation due to magnetic anomalies on the surface, which are capable of deflecting solar winds, we can locate areas of the surface where inhabitants will be naturally shielded from radiation. Now, this won't be easy, and it will require not only remote sensing technology, but also surface level radiation detectors. However, if we're successful, then this will change the future of a lunar outpost by reducing the reliance on personal protective equipment and allowing for longer duration stays on the moon.
The lunar outpost sounds expensive. Did you have to break the piggy bank to pay for it?
Well, we had to break many piggy banks indeed, but thanks to AI, we were able to spend the money efficiently. Today we use AI to determine business models, but things were different in the past. Let me load the digital triplets from management and business so we can learn more.
Back in 2022, AI and machine learning needed more data to determine if the outpost should be supported by government, private industries, and our mixed model approaches. So we focus on business strategies like cost optimization to ensure the long-term sustainability and profitability of the lunar outpost. At this time, deep learning AI models were used to manage a vast array of parameters that impact the cost of maintaining the lunar habitat. These AI models were fundamental in reducing reliance on resources from Earth and expanding its utilization of hydrogen and oxygen.
We provided financial capital through the commercialization of innovative ideas, including artificial intelligence as a service. We used Earth-based datasets to train AI and ML algorithms for the lunar context. Then, we commercialized those algorithms into a service that would optimize specifications for other lunar and planet bases. This ensured compatibility between outposts and an exponential learning journey for our AI as the number of settlements providing data increased.
Establishing an off-world outpost is more than just about cost. It requires international collaboration and public support. By creating a digital twin of the lunar outpost for virtual simulations and marketing, we increased engagement and captured the imagination of the public. Machine learning was then used to personalize user interactions and enhance their learning experiences.
Thanks to the lessons learnt, we now use AI to help balance the books, keeping that piggy bank full and keeping the public engaged.
When they finally got to the moon, what did the astronauts like you do?
Astronauts are agents of humankind. They are beings who explore and build on the possibilities of the future. They perform experiments, studying the skies, whilst putting their lives all in for the pursuit of knowledge. Because knowledge is power.
Good day, everyone. Today we're answering questions from our audience regarding scientific missions on the moon. The first question is, what are the most important resources that lunar science research stations will require? Well, light, water, and minerals for research and resourcing. Light provides the ability to see both present and past. It also brings power to the astronauts. Water is a key indicator for life throughout our universe and can even be used to make air. As such, it is an important part of lunar exploration to understand all the elements on the surface of the moon. Thorium, titanium, iron, silicates, all these things build the pillars of humanity's existence on the moon. The second question is, where do we find these minerals? In the moon's dirt? Where there have been confirmed findings in permanently shadowed craters. These are craters of no light, so cold that they preserve even the tiniest of the constituents that have arrived from the deepest places in space. It is vital that we explore these places in hopes of gaining knowledge of the solar system's place in time and space. Permanently shadowed regions, as well as sublunar environments, remain so far unexplored. The last question is, do lava tubes exist on the moon? Yes. There are areas of land tunneled out from hot flowing lava, creating a network of unique underground environments. Possibilities and opportunities lie within these extraordinary excavations, providing astronauts with natural protection from radiation and a chance to advance current understandings.
That is why they were sent there. A chance to take one step further into the future, a chance to take a step into outer space. With lots of scientific equipment to send us lots of information to assist our understanding of space along the way.
How do you power equipment on the moon?
Just like there are craters of permanent shadow, there are also peaks where there is always sunlight, and this can be harnessed to generate power.
Understanding the sun's exposure on the lunar surface is critical for a successful outpost in terms of energy generation. Solar sites with sufficient solar exposure are crucial to ensure that energy generation from solar panels can take place. Arrays of these solar panels will be installed on the lunar surface, so it is vital that our selected outpost location will have sufficient exposure to the sun to maximize the long-term sustainability of the outpost.
Okay, but how do we get information about solar exposure on the moon though?
Well, we use something called the intelligent sensing, remote sensing enhanced by AI, which can effectively process and compare large amount of data from satellites. The satellite networks provide dataset using remote sensing through techniques such as high resolution, anomaly detection, and from that we can use image processing technique like feature extraction to analyze area of interest from the data.
What are we waiting for then?
Well, the space application team have identified there is an insufficient resolution available in terms of illumination, slope, and roughness data derived from current remote sensing products. A possible remedy for future settlements is for more advanced instrumentation on remote sensing mission who have been tested in extreme conditions.
Okay, all right. Sounds good.
But why do we care about slope or roughness?
Because we send robots to explore the surfaces and to assist with science.
Oh, and did the robots get stuck in the craters?
It's a great question because they actually did get stuck at one point.
No way! How did they get out?
Well, why don't we hear from the engineers on one of the earlier missions?
So, Chief Engineer, how will you prevent rovers being stuck in the future based on the L3PO incident?
Yeah, great question. So we believe that L3PO made a miscalculation in determining the slope of the crater that it got stuck in. So back when we were considering what factors needed to be addressed for the safe and efficient transportation of lunar rover vehicles, human exploration, and rocket launch pads, we first had to visualize what the future of an effective outpost would require. So this meant optimizing the location for terrain access regarding potential heavy-duty work like construction, digging, and hauling loads. Artificial intelligence and machine learning techniques ensured that our location satisfied the specific conditions necessary for developing this outpost. The beauty of space engineering is that it encapsulates so many different areas within one discipline, from astrodynamics, propulsion, communications, and robotics, which all needed to be studied when designing this successful mission. Thankfully, we had a great team from all over the globe that enabled us to do this.
How does this plan for the next generation of exploration tie into the planned expansion into a sustainable lunar outpost?
This next generation of hydrogen-powered rovers will utilize sophisticated AI systems to ensure we use our fuel resources as efficiently as possible. We have to consider exactly how much fuel will be required to get all the people, robots, vehicles, and other supplies to the moon for the expansion. Speaking of resources, using what the moon has to offer is also integral to our outpost operations. Making sure the base is located optimally such that we can make use of valuable materials like ice water for hydrogen and oxygen production, metals, and building materials will help ensure our outpost can sustain itself and thrive into the future.
And how did they know where to build the lunar outpost?
Well, we created something called a prototype, and this interactive display talks about the process.
The various data sets from Lola and other moon mapping observations were taken into the account to build an AI and ML prototype. Then, by applying bunch of coordinates and piles of Python codes, the matrix was achieved. Then, with the help of the factors like roughness, slope, terrain access was examined. Conditions for solar exposure and even for ISRU for outpost location were made available through the prototype. It was implemented for different types of specifications which focus science, engineering, and space applications. The prototype was able to demonstrate slope map, sun visibility map, earth visibility map, and even landing feature site. DEM, that is data elevation model, went through iterations, provided the lunar outpost location site feature. The optimized map was accessed by performing several iterations for the different parameters, and then by finding local maxima, selection of specific sites was achieved. Those were followed by remapping to get a desirable 3D visualization as well as the output.
And then what happened?
Okay, mate. I think we've taken up enough of Astrotori's time.
Can we come back tomorrow?
Well, it was great chatting with you both, and I will see you next time. Here's that report you asked for from the archives.
Thank you, Astrotori. Just in time. Hey, David, turns out our team's work didn't go to waste, hey? Otherwise, we won't be here where we are right now.
Oh, yeah, definitely. You know, it was through our recommendations, such as being able to use AI and ML to optimize the locations of missions, that we can now use the same methods for our plan to go to planets in Alpha Centauri.
Well, don't forget, we have these structures also, thanks to using our AI as a service for the design, construction, and operation of this base.
Well, you know what? I'm glad that Astrotori isn't here right now, because otherwise she would have found out that we're holograms, all thanks to our team for using ML to create this interactive platform.
Agreed. That means that we look so real that she couldn't really point out that we were holograms. But in all seriousness, look at what we have achieved so far. This is just the beginning. And it will be a matter of time before we go to the planets of Alpha Centauri.
Oh, absolutely. And you know what? I can definitely say now, the sky is not the limit. I think that the future generations will do us proud based off the foundations that we've built with our work and our success.
I think so too.
Of course, the momentous task of using AI and ML technologies to help optimize the location for a habitable, sustainable lunar outpost could not have been accomplished without intercultural, international, and interdisciplinary assistance. The SHSSP22 class would like to extend our thanks to all those who have supported and guided us on our journey. Thank you to the International Space University. Thank you to the University of South Australia. Thank you to all our coaches, mentors, lecturers, chairs, speakers, TAs, and facilitators. And of course, thank you to our sponsors. Sik Atar Ad Astra.
Okay. Thank you very much to the team. We gave you a challenge 6 weeks ago because we talked about your topics as part of the onboarding process. And then the first week, we start talking about how you're going to go and meet that challenge. And I have to say that I think the entire teams and also the university is very proud of the work that you've done. You step up and deliver. So congratulations. I'm very impressed with the products that you guys put together. Make it very entertaining and at the same time, very educational. And so with that, we're going to open it up for Q&A for the judges to be able to ask you questions. So Alex, can you start the process of emceeing the Q&A, please?
Thank you, Kanal. Yes, fantastic presentation, guys. To be very, very proud. I'd like to invite Franca and Owen to unmute themselves and make themselves known. They will be our participant MCs for this portion of the Q&A. And for our esteemed faculty members and judges who have joined us, if you have a question, I invite you to use the raise hand function. So Franca and Owen can call upon you to ask your question.
Fantastic. Thank you, Alex. So I'd like to take our first question from Joan. Hi, Joan.
Hello, everyone. And first of all, I would like to thank you very much for the presentation. I thought that it was very, very well made. And actually, I like it very much, the multidisciplinary approach to this topic. My question, or maybe asking a bit more for clarification, it's related to the different specifications that you are considering and how useful AI it is for some of them, because sometimes I'm not an AI expert, but sometimes I got the feeling that we try to put AI in things that really do not need AI, that can be done in a more traditional way. So for instance, for specifications such as, for instance, solar exposure, how do you intend to use AI? Imagine that we have already the digital elevation model. Why do you need AI? If you could explain a bit better, what's the benefit of using it?
Yeah, no, fantastic point. And this is one of the things that we were really focusing on exploring here. So it really covers most of that development of that prototype. So I'd like to call on a couple people to kind of put their input to this. Michael, perhaps you'd like to start us off, but I'd also like to hear from William.
I might throw to William first, Owen, just because he's probably a better place to talk about the solar exposure part of the question, but I'm happy to circle back to what I have to say afterwards.
Let's do that.
Thanks, Michael, and thanks, Owen. Yeah, certainly. So AI and ML is a tool, one of many that can be used in optimizing location. It shouldn't necessarily be thought of as a solve-all that sort of addresses all the needs. In the example of solar exposure, one aspect that's important is, as you said, elevation and you know, the tilt of the axis of the moon and all of those things that directly correlate to the solar exposure. But also it depends what you're actually needing, what the requirements are from that from the solar exposure. If it's necessary to for solar panels, for people, considering all those different perspectives is something that's not quite as easy to solve with just sort of data.
Thanks, William. I'll jump in there. More broadly, as part of the project, we wanted to consider what AI and ML are good for, but also the things that they're not good for. So to give you an example, one of the things that we elected not to use AI and ML to optimize was the cultural aspects of the proposed lunar outpost. And the reason we felt that was that the intangible and subjective and qualitative and context-dependent nature of ideas like cultural value mean that it's really difficult to create meaningful and high-quality training data for AI and ML systems to allow them to work properly. And that's why we elected, in cases like that, our assessment was more that while AI and ML aren't the best tools for optimizing those kinds of decisions, they can definitely, AI and ML informed products can inform human decisions on those topics. Thank you.
Thank you for the explanations.
Perfect. So I think it'd also be good to hear from Ashwini on this topic, as Ashwini was working on the applications background of our solar exposure in particular. Ashwini, would you like to jump in?
Yeah, yes, please. Thank you so much, Owen. For optimizing a lunar outpost location for solar exposure, AI and ML have applications in laser-derived topography to learn more solar exposure conditions. So the construction and tracking of an average solar exposure map are the tasks for intelligent sensing can perform, and along with the tracking of eclipse periods and determination of a region with maximum solar exposure. This can be contributed to outpost location, optimizing as solar exposure is critical for aspects such as power generation and thermal control system as well. So an AI acting on dedicated digital twin model of temperature sensitive equipment could govern the active thermal control system, ensuring that the temperature requirements are constantly satisfied. For example, spacecraft equipment or a lunar base habitat. So Yeah, that's from me. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ashwini. Now we've got a question from Walter.
Yeah, thank you very much. So first of all, my congratulations to the presentation. Also, my thanks that you are introducing already a future ISU student. That was very considerate of you. As a side remark, by the way, I saw some of you sitting in the cupola. I don't know which sponsor facilitated that, but we're always happy to have opportunities to go to space. So thank you very much. But now to my question. The nature of the lunar base is that everybody brings in, to a certain extent, by proper funding, some elements. Now, I understand fully that you need developments on AI. So who are you going to approach to fund these developments? And linked to that, do you think that you can approach somebody by saying, well, if you fund that, you probably have knowledge for a terrestrial spin-off?
Thank you so much, Walter. That's an excellent question. We have a few people that can jump in on this. We've got Daniela and then followed by Paroma.
If I can find the mute button, sorry. Walter, thank you very much for the question, and it's something that we've been considering very much. It's a very important topic. We've been looking at the importance of international collaboration for this endeavor. It's something that is very important for all of us, and it's one of the keys to ensure we have a fair and equitable access to space. We have been looking at how AI and machine learning can help us to decide a business model, and we realize it's definitely a complex approach. So to add to that, we have been looking at how AI and machine learning can help us to generate public support regardless of the approach. So we've generated a few examples to show how AI and machine learning can help us to keep the public support in case of a public funding endeavor, or to maximize the return in case of a privately funded endeavor. So we don't have the answer of which one is best, and probably a mixed approach is best. But we've been proving in our report that both of them will significantly benefit from a public support created thanks to the use of AI and machine learning. And I let Paroma add from here.
Thank you, Daniela. So as the space sector continues to grow and technological advances are increasingly important in our everyday lives, the approach of considering, I guess, from a business partnerships kind of look, you can consider R&D opportunities, so research and development opportunities, and that's collaborations with universities, with corporate partners, with philanthropists, and approaching different kinds of groups, and whether that's only, I guess, from a national perspective of Australia, for instance, or we go to a more, a broader approach to all the different countries that are involved in the initiative. And it would seem to be that in itself is propelling a lot of attraction. And then you also have, as we know, with all the different billionaires and people going off into space at the moment. So there is a lot of desire for space exploration. So I'm quite confident that that will be something we could approach.
Thank you very much. I endorse your feelings. I think a PPP, a public-private partnership, is something that you could attempt here. Thank you very much. I see there are other questions.
Yeah, just really quickly, I think we have one more comment from a participant. Catherine, do you want to jump in here, and then we'll pass over to Michael after that?
Thank you, Owen. That's very, very generous. But I think both my colleagues and Walter summed it up perfectly. Yes, okay. PPI is a way to do it, but also, as we mentioned, AI as a service to commercialize. And of course, we want to engage the public to ensure we have full support. Thank you very much.
Brilliant. Thank you, Catherine. Okay, Michael Simpson, do you want to ask away?
Yes, I delighted that you found a way to use these rapidly advancing technologies to optimize a space problem. The economist in me, however, says that ever since we discovered the power of the second derivative, we've been chasing optimums. And whenever you find an optimum, you create rarity, you create scarcity, because there is only one optimum, only one that's the best. And so did you consider the challenge of how we would make the political and economic decisions for access to these optimum sites? Since once we know that some site is the best, there's going to be an awful lot of interest in making use of the best site.
Wow. Yeah. Very, very interesting perspective on that. I think I'll pass straight over to maybe our policy team. Maybe Harry Bennett, do you want to jump in on this if you've got some ideas?
Yeah, no, absolutely. Thanks, Owen. So I actually worked a little bit with the system design, considering how this framework takes into account different inputs. And I think you've made an excellent point in terms of considering economic considerations for the development of outposts in different regions of the moon. So one of our considerations for this framework was a series of inputs ranging from Earth analog datasets, remote trading sensor datasets, and rover autonomous real-time datasets from the ideal conditions on the moon. So when we're using our AI machine learning algorithm suite, that is a really important factor to consider as well. So our optimization framework for picking the best lunar coordinates can also take that into account. That's something we'll think about going forward.
Yeah, thanks, Harry. That was absolutely a fantastic response. I think it's really interesting that balance in terms of the collaboration and also with, you know, as we commercialize the lunar surface, there's going to be those issues. I think Robin might have some other points to add on that. Robin, are you there?
Yes, thanks, Owen, and thank you for the question. Ultimately, we did consider that, but at present, there's only a few spacefaring nations, so practically it's not required to be answered at the moment. But as you say, as space becomes more accessible, there is going to potentially be a space race for the ideal location. So we identified from a legal, policy and ethical discipline the need for further regulation. So that'll involve international cooperation. It potentially will involve international policies and regulations, data sharing, transparency, and the like. And ultimately, we recommended that the United Nations potentially could be the body that drives these discussions to ensure that, you know, no one has a monopoly on the, you know, ideal areas on the moon.
Now, fortunately, the Committee on the Peaceful Uses of Outer Space is actually adding such items to their agenda now. So you're moving in the right direction, but it's worth keeping in mind that perhaps even more hazardous than radiation is the potential for human-on-human conflict once we end up having multiple activities on the moon. And managing access is going to be very important once you start determining optimums.
Thank you so much, Robin and Michael. I now have a question from Michael Davies.
Oh, thank you, and congratulations, everyone. I really enjoyed it. My question is about virtual reality, which is the sort of the cousin of artificial intelligence. And I just wondered whether any of you had considered the impact of virtual reality on future space exploration, or possibly not so much exploration as the phenomenon of space tourism, and some people are saying that in time, through virtual reality, you will be able to have a very similar experience as actual spaceflight. And I recall some of you may have visited the Space Buzz from the Netherlands, which does give participants quite an exciting virtual experience. So it's a little bit off the main topic, but I just wondered whether anyone had considered the role of virtual reality.
Thank you. We did, I'll cover the first half of the answer, and then we're going to hear from Doug and Harry. So I guess we did sort of approach virtual reality in a way, because in our solution, we used existing data sets, and then we used a suite of AI and ML algorithms to produce an estimate on suitability. And in doing that in our prototype, we actually produced these really beautiful graphics of the terrain. And that sort of gave us an insight, 3D visualization into the lunar surface. So that was very exciting. That was our first sort of real life view at what the terrain would look like. So that was awesome. But I'll throw it over to Doug to discuss this further.
Hi, thanks. Yeah, so using that terrain data that Franco was talking about, we saw that as a real opportunity to engage with the human population and really take the moon from being an exclusive thing that only, like someone mentioned earlier, there's a few nations that are able to go to the moon, and make that part of our marketing strategy and our business strategy to create digital twins and bringing those to initially to like a huge growing market, which is the mobile gaming market, and have situations where you can have, up to, they're predicting by 2026, 2.3 billion users with mobile phones capable of being able to load digital twins of the moon. And then we can create virtual environments, or even the real environment that's up there, put that into a game and allow people to interact with it, which we see as being a great way to increase engagement. And I guess some sectors are worried that if you have a virtual environment that's just like the space environment, why would you go to space? We really don't see that as being a detriment, because we're setting up an environment that needs full public support. So having something which is ultimately very accessible, easy to set up, and rapidly growing is a great way to bring the moon to the masses.
Thank you so much, Doug. And to finish off, we've got Harry.
Yeah, firstly, I just want to say I love mixed reality and augmented reality solutions. So thinking about how our tool could be used in the long term, collecting all that data and all that aggregated information, is that at the very end, we have these ideal lunar outpost coordinates. We could actually use it as a tool to inform astronauts, to inform the body that arranged that outpost mission, to actually see the space around where the outpost could be manufactured, where it could be made. So to think about a parallel as well, drawing slightly out of scope, they're using the Microsoft HoloLens, I know at Sydney Medical School, as a tool for some of their training for surgery. So we're seeing more mixed reality, augmented reality in all forms of work and life. So to have applications such as that be used to the moon is definitely a consideration of ours. Thanks, Franco.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Harry. I think we still have some more time. So we have a question from Yang.
Thank you. And yes, that have your presentation. It's a very nice presentation, and I really enjoy it. Very impressive. And now here the question. And then, in your point of view, how will the artificial intelligence and the machine learning technologies work together with the astronauts? I mean, with human in the future space exploration missions, as well as moving lunar outpost mission.
Yeah, fantastic. I think Summer Russell might be great at answering this question. Summer, do you want to jump on it?
Thanks so much, Owen, and thanks for the great question. Yeah, I think that there is definitely a market for that in the future, and there's already technologies exploring this currently. There are multiple companies that are currently developing or have developed artificial intelligent assistants that can assist astronauts on whether that be the International Space Station or on a lunar outpost or any future outposts as well. That would be really beneficial for not only communication and for that kind of company that having another person, or in this case machine, there will give the astronauts, but will also help technically. There's limited crew trying to do a large amount of work. So to have these kind of assistants and for them to be able to learn and adapt to each individual crew member will allow for great benefits in the future.
Perfect. Thanks, Summer. And Paroma, I think you've got something to add to that.
Yes, thank you. One of the recommendations that we were thinking of would be to utilize extended reality technology to bring earthbound cultural experiences. So for example, museum or other heritage experiences to astronauts in space as a means of satisfying feelings of nostalgia and times of loneliness. As we can imagine that, going to space, it can be sometimes cold and dark, and giving that opportunity to feel that connectedness. There's also the notion of using intensity of human emotion using machine learning algorithms and wearing sensors in order to detect the overall well-being of the crew health in real time. So those are just a couple of ways that we were thinking in terms of using AI and machine learning for astronauts in space.
Okay,
Excellent.
thank you.
Thank you so much. Beautiful. We had a question, it's coming up on my screen as S. Ortega. I think you're on mute for us.
Hi, sorry. Yes, I was still muted. So good morning from Europe. We are here, Chloe and myself, from the European Space Agency, and we are very happy for being invited to this presentation. And the quality was amazing, so congratulations to all of you. And well, our question is that since you have been working on building an outpost for humans, we believe that keeping humans and the astronauts alive is a crucial key, it's a crucial factor to be sure that we accomplish success of the mission. And in order to achieve this goal, probably we need life support systems, and probably advanced life support systems, which are coupled dynamical systems, which can be extremely sensitive and very difficult to predict and control. So do you think that also artificial intelligence can be applied to improve the efficiency and the effectiveness of the automatic control of a life support system to keep the astronauts alive in the human outpost?
Thank you so much. We've got someone who is very well equipped to answer this question, David Cooper.
Thank you, Franca. That's probably one that's as much for engineering as it is for life sciences. However, from a life science perspective, there's no doubt that AI and ML will have a significant role to play in the fine-tuning and the optimization of the feedback system, the automated feedback systems for life support that will be ultimately be necessary, depending on how complex the life support system is and whether or not it's purely mechanical or has biological components to it. If we're talking about closed, fully closed systems, which nobody's yet managed to achieve, in order to refine the feedback loops that you get, especially when you encounter biological components in the system, in order to refine it and narrow the margin to getting it closer and closer and ever closer to a fully closed system. The potential for AI and ML to contribute to that, to respond rapidly to vast amounts of data from various sensors and to modify the outputs, the potential is huge. So over to the engineering buffs, I think.
I can probably jump in on that one. So I just wanted to add that at the very base of improvement, if we are able to better understand the patient's day-to-day patterns, health patterns, and the need of the principles behind the care that they need, using AI and using machine learning algorithms to predict these patterns, then we've already certainly improved life support systems. But I might throw it over to Paroma to expand further on that.
Sure, thank you. I suppose if you wanted to prevent the need from getting it to that point of the life support systems, there's also the notion of kinetically engineering astronauts of the future. So we might be able to adapt to the harsh conditions in space. There is some research being done on that subject. However, using an ethical lens, there is also the concern of the cost to which we continue to change ourselves to the point that we're no longer recognizable. That's another kind of concept in terms of ethics that is being discussed as well. Thank you.
Brilliant. Thanks, Paroma. I think, I'm not sure if we have enough time for one more question. I think.
Owen, let me break in.
Absolutely.
Mike, I don't know if you have a comment or a quick question, but we have about 2 minutes left. So if you have a quick comment, go ahead.
Really a very quick question. I've just been asking myself, how data hungry are these two techniques of artificial intelligence and machine learning? We're going to be looking at a lot of places where we have limited data as we move further and further away from Earth. How much data did you feel you needed to do your site optimization?
Perfect. I think Will would be the perfect person for this. Will, are you there?
Yeah, thanks, Owen. To answer the question in short, yeah, they are extremely data hungry. For example, we looked at very specific regions of the lunar South Pole, and even just these areas are already under observation and under quite detailed observation. And even then, sort of, you can only get down to like a 5-meter accuracy in terms of the digital elevation models. But if we're looking for all across the moon, there's a huge amount of data there that we'd have to process. AI and ML can be used to actually augment this data and give us some better information out of it. But you're making more data as well using those techniques. I might pass to Franca, if I bring the chat, all right?
That is perfect. Thank you so much, Will. On that note, we all just wanted to thank the judges and everyone who was kind enough to listen to our presentation very, very much. We are very, very proud of the work we have produced, and we're very happy to be sharing it with you today. And thank you so much. So I'll pass it back to Knoll on that note.
Thank you very much, Frankie. And I would like to take, to give Francois Piro, who's the chair of this TP, about 30 seconds to say a few words before we close. Francois?
Francois, we're not sure if you're hearing us. We can't hear you just yet.
Hello, can you hear me?
There we go, perfect. Go ahead.
Okay, sorry, there was a small connection issue. Thanks, Knoll, and most importantly, thank you to the whole team, the whole cohort of participants. It's been an immense pleasure for Jacques, Rodrigo, Arshita, Shrirup, and myself to be with all of you during these last couple of weeks. It's been extremely dense, friendly. I insist on that adjective. A very friendly atmosphere, a very smooth set of exchanges between you guys and us in the faculty. We haven't seen any hiccup, and the interactions between you and us has always been dense, nice, with a lot of substance and a lot of friendliness. So in a nutshell, the only thing I can say is big thanks To all of you, it's been a great moment we've been spending together. Thanks to Kenol and the ISU team and the Adelaide University team as well, for organizing all this. It's been a rich and nice experience. Congratulations to the TP team. Congratulations to everybody. It's been really great.
Thank you very much, Francois. You accepted the challenge to lead the team. And also thank you very much to the team lead, Owen and Frankie. You did a great job and we're very proud of you.
Woo!
And on behalf of ISU and UniSA, I want to thank you all and also want to thank all of the judges. Some of you, I know it's 2, 3 o'clock in the morning in your time zone. So we appreciate it very much for coming in and that's the level of your dedication to ISU and also to share your knowledge, to contribute and, you know, as part of, for the young generations really and set the example. So we appreciate that very much and thank you very much. And also I would like to thank the chairman of the board of 10 to 9 Plus Foundations, Michael Simpson. He is the sponsor for this TP. And hopefully, I think, Mike, you are very happy with the result. With that, I say thank you.
One of the best presentations ever, Kenol.
Thank you. With that, I say thank you and see you soon. And see you days for people on the YouTube. There will be an opening ceremony at 11:30 Strasbourg time. So we'll be looking forward for you to join us as well. Thank you very much.